Hello friends, this is Ganesh and video number 4. In this session, I'm going to explain about association and navigation in OData Service. So in the previous videos, I have shown you how to create OData Service with few entity sets and what are the relevant DPZ method will generate and how we can redefine it and how we can call it through gateway URL. Okay, URI they call it as. So with the help of the URI path, we are able to call or access the content of the particular method or particular entity set, header or item. So now we are going to see one step ahead. Previously we designed header and item separately, separate entity set, and we need a separate two entity sets, so they have to use two different entity set to access the header or item information. So normally in SAP, if you take any kind of business data, so we have a header and item, so it's dependent. So item is always depends on the header data, so header and item, so normally we call it as loop and read is for header and item. So same kind of concept we are going to do it in OData Service. And the people who are started learning OData Service, you always remember OData Service is the place where you're going to design based on the business requirement. Okay, so here also you don't want to learn about your normal ABAP coding, loop and read, BAPI. Everything is similar, everything you already know. So no need to spend more time in your learning period. So don't spend much time on above perspective. Just learn how to design much better in OData Service. So this is my perspective about OData. So no need to figure out the code part. Just learn how we can able to create entity set for the business scenario. What is association? What is navigation path? What is deep entity set? So try to learn most of the design perspective, so that will be very helpful for you to handle any different or any complex business scenarios. Okay, so in that aspect, I'm going to explain how to do or how to design an association and the navigation for the business scenario. Here the example is, I'm going to take the purchase order header and item details. I'm going to take the header information and item details with the help of a BAPI. But everything is going to be in a single URI for the UI application. With the help of that, they're going to get header details if they want, or item details if they want. Okay, so let's get into the slide. So this is the existing one. So existing one, we have seen this. I have created two different entity sets. One is for header entity set and another one is for item entity set. So what happens is it generate a method. Okay, just the naming convention is just for a reference. Okay, not exactly. So it creates a method called entity set is one method for header, and another method is entity set for PO item entity. So this is my one entity set. This is the relevant method, and this is my item entity, and this is a relevant method. So from the UI perspective, these are UI. From the UI perspective, if they want a header, they're going to call the relevant entity set URL, or if you want the item, the relevant entity set URI. Okay, sorry, URL or URI both are similar. Okay, don't worry about it. So here, this is the way we designed it. So because this is a dependent data, right? Header and item is a dependent data. So why we need to create a two different URL to read similar kind of data? Suppose if you have header, item, from there you're going little more down. So we don't want to create that much, that number of entity sets or that number of URL to the UI application. Okay, so to avoid that, we have an option in OData service called association and navigation. Okay, to follow this, we have a concept called deep entity set. So maybe that will come in other following videos. Okay, first I'm going to change my design. So what is my design here? The design is two different or two independent entity set. So I'm going to make a change. I'm going to create two entity sets. There is no change in the creation. We are going to create two different entity sets only, but I'm going to make an association between these two. Okay, I'm going to create an association between header and item. Yes, this is my dependent entity. Okay, and we need some variables or fields to be mapped, right? So with the help of P1 number, I'm going to map these two entity sets. Okay, so technically we have to know a few terms called association. So we have to enable the mapping or association between these two entity sets. This is one technical term. Another technical term is a navigation path. Just keep this in your mind. Maybe I will explain two more slides. You come to know what is navigation path, or if I explain in the system level, it's very easy to understand what is a navigation path. Okay, so navigation path is, I can say, it's a kind of a communication, or there is a way of communication between the header to item entity set. Okay, so mostly this navigation path is going to be used in the UI level, means that the URL SAP gateway client URL or UI URI level. Okay, going forward, I will take the terminology as URI, even in SAP Gateway also. If you say request URI. So URI is nothing but Universal Resource Identifier. Okay, so URI. Now, little more technical. So I have an entity set and I have header and item entity set. So basically we have two different methods. Actually we have different lot of methods is created in the DPC extension class. It's like create entity, update entity, delete entity, entity set. So five different methods, or by default it creates. Okay, but we are going to see two important methods for this session. One is entity and entity set. Okay, an item, this is one entity. For that there is a method called entity and entity set. Okay, very simple way to understand this method from above perspective is, this is nothing but a work area. Okay, so if the system decides, okay, this particular URI or request from UI returns only one record at a time, then it's going to be called this entity method. Next, system decides, okay, based on this URI, it may have more than one record at a time. So it's nothing but an internal table. That particular decision is going to be execute entity set method. So how the system decides, I will show you in the system. Okay, so very simple. When the entity when the entity method executes, only one record is returned, and entity set is nothing but it returns more than one record. It's applicable for any type of entity sets. Okay, header also same, item also same. And now there is only one URI is going to be used in the UI application to access a header or item information, not like two different URI for the header set or item set. Only one is enough if we enable the association option between the entity sets. Okay, so hope till this you are able to understand what we are going to do. The next one, I will continue with some more theoretical part, then we'll go to the system. It's very easy to understand. So as I mentioned, if you create any entity set in OData service like SEGW transaction, once you generate, it will create a DPC set class with default methods: create entity, update entity, delete entity, get entity, and get entity set. So in this session, we are going to see about these two methods only. So when this get entity, return parameter is only one, means only one record. Entity set is more than one, the same. So here I have two entity sets, one is header, one is item. So obviously I'll have a different methods for header and different methods for item. Now when or how the system decides, okay, I'm going to call the entity method, I'm going to call the entity set method, depends on the URI parameters. Now this is the parameter normally start with SAP OPU OData, and your what do you call, service name and then your entity set. Okay, if the entity set is going to call with the help of the value, meaning by passing the key field values from the UI application, then system decides, okay, the key field values are coming. Obviously, if they give the values for the key fields, it has only one record in the database table. Okay, so for example, header, I have a PO number as a key field. So EKKO table or any BAPI, if you decide, it will return only one record at a time. It doesn't matter whether you're going to call a BAPI or a select statement, because it's coming under inside the method. Now the system has to decide which method to be called. So in your URI, we are sending the values to all the key fields, then it will go and call only get entity method. It won't go and call get entity set method. Here system decides, okay, in this URI they are sending the values for the key fields, so I have to call only get entity, not entity set. Now next is PO item set. Suppose I have a two key fields. Okay, I selected PO number and PO item as a key field. Then if you call the particular URI with all the values of your key fields, then it decides, okay, I'm getting the values for key fields for this particular item set, so I need to call get entity method, not get entity set method. Okay, I will show you in the system as well the same syntax, and I have a breakpoint in entity and entity set method. Then you come to know, okay, if you pass the key field values, it goes to entity. If there is no key field values, then it will go to the entity set. I'll show you the next example. Next example, if I call the same URI with just an entity set, I'm not passing any value to my key fields, then system decides, okay, there is no fields, no values are coming for the key fields. It might return more than one record at a time. So I have to call get entity set method. Okay, same for PO item set. I have to call get entity set method. See, inside whatever code is there, it doesn't matter for the system. Okay, system decide what method to be called. Even inside a method, you can write a code in such a way it returns only one record at a time. It doesn't matter for the system. System has to decide, I have go to entity or entity set method. Okay, so hope you get clarity about when the get entity method will call and when the get entity set method will call. Okay, next one more slide related to the same method. Now the question is, this is okay, it goes to call my entity and entity set method, but now we decided the URI is going to be only one. Okay, because we have an association. So for everything shows the example is two different entity sets or two different URI. Now I'm going to call with one single URI, but I need the value from my dependent entity. Like if I call header, it needs to call the header. Suppose if you want an item, I'm going to use some other option to call the item the same URI. I'm saying some parameters, then it should call my dependent entity as well. So that is nothing but navigation path. So this PO header, forget about navigation path just a time being. If I call the URI with the value of my key fields, then what happens? You should call the get entity method, right? But here what is happening, I am going to add a navigation path name. Navigation path is nothing but a communication between one entity to another entity set. Okay, so if I use that particular name after my URI, then it should call the item entity set method. Okay, you don't, here you can say entity is p1 underscore header set, but I have created association, I have enabled the navigation path between these two entity set. So if you use the navigation path, automatically it will go to item get entity set method, take what it just execute whatever information is over there, and it's come back and give the response to the UI application. So one URI will serve in a three different way. For example, if I give only OData P header set this value, it will go to call get entity, and same URI if I remove this value, just say PO underscore header set, it will go and call get entity set, and if I call PO header set with value slash navigation path, it will go and call get entity set method for item. Okay, so one URI with the three different parameters, it will go and call three different methods. So if that association is enabled, maybe further deep association, one URI is enough with a different parameter, it will give the information to the UI application. So hope you are able to understand the design, and one important thing is if you're good with the design, coding is very simple. Okay, so I will explain the same thing in my system as well. Okay, so let's get into the system. Hopefully it might be a little bigger video, maybe more than 30 minutes I believe, so please be patient. Let me get into my system. Yep. So this is my system. Let me start with SEGW. SEGW, I'm going to create a new OData CGI association and navigation path local objects. Okay, so I need to open BAPI because I'm going to use the BAPI structure for my entity type or entity set. So I need to create two entity sets. So let me create entity set. Let me do a different way. So here right click, create import DDIC structure. So entity name is PO header, and above structure, yeah, this is the one which I have used already, and I just selected this option, create default entity set. Next, what are the fields you want? I want PO number, company code, document type, and created by vendor, not more than that. Okay, because this is simple, no need to spend much time on it. So key field is just a PO underscore number. Okay, so number is PO number, and finish. I had to do the same for my item. So right click, data model, import TDAC structure. This is PO item, and structure I don't have. Go here, tables, BAPI, EKPO. Okay, there is an additional space. Next, I want PO number, PO item, status, material, plan, storage location. Next, and the key field, PO number and PO item, or key field, and finish. This is also done. By default, you will get entity sets, PO header and PO item set. Okay, so it's very simple. Now I'm going to create an association. Okay, so right click, I'll complete the entire design, then in the coding part I'll show you when the entity will call, entity set method will call, and everything. Okay, I'm going to create an association. Just click right click association and create it. What is the name of it? Maybe PO underscore association. What is the entity name? Principal entity. Simply we call it as header and item. So here is header, principal entity. So cardinality is 1. So obviously it has only one header. And navigation property. So navigation property is basically principal to dependent. Okay. Suppose you have one more from dependent to another dependent, you can have another navigation property over here. So that is optional here. I'm going to create navigation property. So navigation property is PO number. Okay, just a name. It's not like any field name, just a name. So okay, I can say navigation property for PO. Okay, it's not case, it's actually case sensitive. It's not being always in the capital letter. So navigation property for PO details. Details. So remember this navigation path. So this plays a major role in the URI level. Okay. Next, entity type name. This is my item, and cardinality obviously 0 to n. So no navigation path for my dependent entity. Next. So it shows, okay, this is your principal entity header, and this is your item, but what on what basis? Okay, so what basis you're going to select? So here it's P1 number, principal key, and what is the dependent property? Dependent property also P1 number. Select from F4. Here it is P1 number. Okay, next. It shows just for a confirmation, this is association name, my principal entity and my dependent entity. Yes, finish. There are a few changes happens in your left hand side hierarchy. There is an expand button comes in the association. You can see association. So what is association? You can know it's a P1 number. Based on this, it's a P1 number. Okay. And if you open the entity type, excuse me, in the PO header, not in the PO item, you're not able to see. In the PO header, the navigation property has some value. This is the value of navigation property. It's not applicable for this development or for this scenario. Okay, so these are the things it's changed over here, and create the association set also, right? It's created the association set. Okay, so this is the overall design. I have created an entity set and I enable the association along with the navigation property or navigation path, another name. Okay, everything is done. Activate it and generate it. Select it, generate. Now it creates the DPC and MPC class details, local object. Thing is done. So the next will activate a service, then see how it's the metadata looks like along with the association. Then create a breakpoint and start executing the entity sets, and we'll see how it behaves. So go here, activate a service, add service, CGI, sorry, local CGI star. So this is an association service. Everything is fine. Next. Was created and its metadata was loaded successfully. Next. So go back, filter it with CGI, and this is mine, association service, and go to SAP Gateway client, and here you can see request URI. Okay, so here I'm going to say I'm going to see the metadata. It's standard metadata. So this is a metadata. You can able to see a new way or new content is included as nothing but navigation property between your header and item. So this is under header, right? Header entity set. This is my header entity set, and this is a navigation property of it. And the PO item is my next one. I have a number, item, plan, storage location, and everything. And finally, I have an association. Association is nothing but what is the role like from PO association to PO association, and between header and item, the reference property reference name is PO number. Okay, so just for your reference, saying that okay, my whatever I design is correct, so it's created the association as well. Okay, and you can see two different entity set, header and item. But if we have association, I don't want to use two different sets. One is enough. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to redefine. If I execute it, will get a error because the relevant methods are not implemented in your DPC class. It's not redefined it. So let me redefine those things and come and execute from here with a breakpoint. So activate maintain servers, and yeah, this is the mine. So go to runtime DPC extension class, activate, sorry, double click it, and now I have to redefine it. Okay, so by default we have methods for header, create, delete, get entity, set, get entity set, and update. And today we are going to see only these two methods and these two methods. Okay, so now I'm going to redefine it. Right click, redefine, right click, redefine header, entity, and entity set, and then item, entity, redefine, and item, entity set, redefine. Okay, so I have four different methods are redefined. Let me activate everything first. Extension, pivot, association, extension, this, so everything to be activated together. Everything is ready now. Okay, so now I'm going to keep some breakpoints and I will show you the URI and we'll see how it behaves. Get entity. Okay, so this is not relevant to association, just get entity. So what's get static breakpoint is won't work. So what is get entity? Whenever you're going to send the key fields, automatically it calls the get entity method. So I'm going to perform this for header only, get entity and get entity set, and I'll show you how this methods are getting called. Let me activate it and activate both. Yeah. And I'm going to keep a breakpoint, external breakpoint in entity and entity set. Now from gateway, I'm going to call the header set. Okay, so if I call this with the value of key fields, then it calls the entity set, not the entity set method. Okay, so KKO, just need one pivot. Single quotes. Now I'm going to click execute. So debugging enable, it's going to call the method nothing but get entity, not entity set, because the URI is passing the value for the key fields, okay, PO number. So it should return only one record at a time. So here AR entity, this is not an internal table. This is just a work area. Okay, it returns only one data at a time, one record at a time. Okay, just execute. It won't call entity set. Just come out of it. Now, oh sorry, yeah, it sometimes comes once again because I'm not returning anything. I'm not filling any information. So if you're not filling any information, it gives this error. At least in a debugging level, I have to fill it. Let execute. Yeah. Once this error comes, it won't stop with the debugging also. I have to go out and come back. Go here, system, new. Okay, so let me header set. So hope I have the PO in my, no. Just some PO. Execute. Okay, so ER entity. Let me add some values, just a PO number at least. Okay, anyway, I'm going to write a code. Just go back and full execute. It's 200 now. Okay, because the return parameter is not filled, so it's getting that 404 or 400. So it calls the entity. Now, if I call the URI with just an entity set, now system decide, okay, the key field value is empty, so it might have more than one record in a return parameter. So I need to call entity set method. I'm going to execute it. See, it's called get entity set method. Initially it entity, now it's entity set, and here this is your entity set is an internal table. Okay. So clear? When the entity method calls, when the entity set method calls. It's same for your item as well. So I don't want to proceed. Okay, 1 second. Item has two input values, right? Till I'm not using association, just I'm explaining about the PO number equal to. I'm just explaining which method is going to call entity or entity set. So association will come little later. Comma PO. I believe the naming conventions is correct. If not, it gives an error. Let's see. Execute. Yes. CGI, yes, here. What is the name? PO number, PO item. So PO number and PO item. Yes, correct. PO number equal to PO item equal to this entity set. So what is the error? You can see the error log here. Invalid key name and the key productive. Okay, expected name is PO number, PO item. Okay, something wrong in the names. There is a space. Is okay. So once it is giving an error, it won't stop in the debugging. Okay. Okay. I forgot one more thing. 1 second. The class is not okay. Here it comes here because it's giving empty values, right? So let me have a breakpoint. At least I can show you, yes, it's reached over here. Then we'll write a code to fill the return parameter values. Breakpoint. Activate it. Activate entity as well. I must have a breakpoint, external breakpoint in entity and entity set. This is for item. Okay. Now call entity set item PO number equal to comma PO item equal to. So it should call entity, not entity set, because I'm calling, I'm passing all the key field values. So it calls get entity because return should be only one, and ER entity has only one value, holds only one value. Okay, so if I pass without values, because this error is I'm not passing the values in the output parameter ER entity, that is the reason. And now if I say execute, it comes entity set. Okay, so this makes you clear when entity calls, when entity set calls. Now we are going to make some codings. Okay, and calling the one URI with navigation path. I'm going to access item method and header method, depends on the UI application requirement. So next, first I go to get entity. So here I need only one record is going to be called. So it's going to be called in the signature called key tab. So here it is going to be the hold the values, the key field values. So key field values into data W key tab. So this key tab has two parameters, name and value. Okay, so with key name equal to PO number. So if yes, I'm going to hold the PO number from this internal table. Field this value. Okay, so let me declare that as well. Data local PO PBELI. And now I'm going to call the function module. PO get detail. So it declares these things. I don't want that. And here this is. Let me close the signature. Okay. LV PO. So I don't want item because it's just activity for header. I don't want this and I don't want this. Okay. So I want only header. So here I'm going to use ERENTITY entity. Okay. So signature. So ER entity is going to hold, okay, the value for one record from this particular method. So close it, act over it. Done. Okay, so maybe you can do the same in entity set as well. So header entity set, if you want, you can have different BAPI to get the information, or you can keep the same informations. Okay, now I'm going to keep the entity item set. Okay, otherwise I'll do one thing. This will be easy to understand. Let me copy the same coding and keep it in my entity set as well. Okay, but depends on the business scenario, you can change it. Okay, nothing difference here. And go to entity set. And here, oops, okay. Copy this and go to entity set. So here one more field to be added. So two more fields to be added. Okay, nothing over here. Okay, let me copy this. Instead of calling the function module, I'm going to copy this, and I want an item also to be passed. So I need items. Yes, X, and I don't want header anywhere. So anymore, I don't want header. I want only item. So item is coming under tables, tables, items, PO items. Okay, PO items. Item is equal to er underscore entit entity set. Okay, so this gives active order. So this gives the item details of your PO, whatever is coming from URI. What is that error? Entity set. Okay, sorry, ET entity set. So quick recall, I have a code in get entity method, header get entity method, and header get entity set method. Both codes are same, and item get entity set method. So these three um, I have the code. Okay, these three methods I have a code. So this is actually entity set. So it should be okay. This is, hold on. Okay, this is entity set. So I have to receive this as our area because entity set return parameter as internal table. So WA header type. This is a type. This is what which we created in ACGW while creating the project. So I want to be header and append W header to ET entity set. Okay. So I'm not using that clear and all. So I think you can use it in your own development. So everything is fine. Now I'm going to use one single URI to access these three methods. So if I call header sets of value, so this will call header entity method. Single leg, all right. Header entity method. I'm not sure whether my debugging is still activate or on. Yeah, it's still on. So it has one value. Whatever I enter, it retrieve those informations. Execute. Yes, it will give. These are the fields which I selected. Header information of particular PO. Now, if I want the same information, I want the item details. So what I can do is slash give your navigation path name. What is your navigation path? I believe, yes, I closed it. Slash NACGW association data model entity type PO header navigation property np underscore PO details. Just better I copy this slash np PO details execute. So this should call item set. Yes, it's called get item get entity set method. It gives the information PO number, PO item, material, plant, and storage location. So single URI with the different parameters, you will get a exact data whatever is required in your UI application. Okay, so hopefully this might be useful for you about the association and navigation. If you have any doubt, please let me know. I'm happy to clear your doubts. So You'll get more interesting topic in following videos. So see you in the next video. Thank you so much for your time.